following is a production of Shark Flight Media. Shark Flight Media. Shark Flight Media.
Now entering the nexus of geekery and guy world in 3, 2, 1. Mark.
Hello, IT. Have you tried turning it off and on again?
What's better than this? Guys being dudes.
This is the Dudes in Hyperspace podcast.
Hey kids, welcome back to another exciting edition of the Dudes in Hyperspace podcast. I am your host, Ian J. Malone. I'm going to be joined here in just a couple of minutes by my partners in crime. That would be Rob Howe, Kevin Steverson. First, got to pay those bills. Want to say a big fat thank you, Thanksgiving style thank you, to our presenting sponsor. That would, of course, be Chris Kennedy Publishing. Doesn't matter what you're into, folks. If it's military, science fiction, space opera, fantasy, urban fantasy, even paranormal romance, they've got everything over in the CKP umbrella. Go over to chriskennedypublishing.com to check it out. You can also be sure to follow them in their Facebook groups. That would be CKP, the Factory Floor, and the 4HU, the Merc Guild group. They're very active over there. You'll get news. You'll get events. You'll also get to interact with some of your favorite authors, and that is definitely something that is a hallmark for CKP, as folks like us go hang out in the groups and we talk to the peoples. Speaking of the peoples, Rob and Kevin, how are we doing this evening, fellas?
Well, I'm doing good. Doing great, as a matter of fact. And I know here in this podcast we're going to talk about what we're thankful for in a little bit. But I want to throw something in there just real quick right now. I am thankful that the Atlanta Falcons lived and were able to leave Dallas because they got beat so bad. I mean, listen, my Falcons got beat in a circle. You know what I'm talking about?
Is this going to be a trend? Like every show we got to open with a Falcons commentary? I can pull out the on the stump drop if you want, and we can play that if you need to stand on that again.
This is a pro Cowboys.
Oh, no, sir, it is not.
Because they beat my Falcons in a circle. You know what I'm talking about? You remember when your grandma would grab one hand, you'd try to run, and all you did was run in a circle while you got the crap beat out of you? Yeah. That happened the other day.
For a second there, I thought you were about to say this is a pro Cowboys show. I'm like, only for one member.
Just this one comment. Dallas beat them in a circle, and there was no escaping that switch. You hear me?
Yeah, the boys look good. Rob, what do you got to say about your boys, man? It looks like you're hitting your stride.
I have to say that Atlanta ran into something that isn't necessarily fair. The NFL, there isn't much that separates the top teams from the bottom teams. I mean, it was the same week that the Cowboys lost to the Broncos that the Jaguars beat the team I think is the best team in the NFL, and that's the Bills.
Right.
And beat them 6-9. The Bills have a great offense, and
there were no Urban Meyer sightings in a Columbus College bar after that one. By the way, he was noticeably on the plane headed back to Jacksonville with his own team, which is what grown men are supposed to freaking do. You moron.
Anyway. I don't disagree with that. The point I'm getting at though is that the Cowboys walked out of the game against Denver, and they were really frustrated with themselves. They put a lackluster isn't an appropriate term. They basically went in and stuck the joint up because they sort of went in and sometimes a team gets feeling they've got it, like they're on top of the curve. And I think every team in the NFL gets that every once in a while. Quite clear the Cowboys did that with the Broncos, and they walked in and got hit in the mouth, and some bounces went against them, and it was a thing. And that 30-16 score is very generous to the Cowboys, to be honest, because those 16 points came in crap time. But what that meant is watching that team all week long. Bob Sturm, who we've had on the show, said something to the effect of, okay, if you are the team we think you are, you need to come out and handily beat a team doesn't have as much talent as you, and you need to show up. Because otherwise, all that other stuff, it's nothing.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what the Cowboys were saying. That's what Prescott was saying. That's what McCarthy was saying. That's what, all the players were saying. It's quite clear that they went into that game and said, we aren't what we were last week. And Atlanta didn't do anything wrong. They're a middle of the road team, which the NFL's filled with middle of the road teams. They've got a reasonable shot to make the playoffs. They've got more than quite a few other teams. They just ran into a team that was ready to kill whoever was in front of them.
Right.
And it could have been the Bills, who again I think are the best team right now. It could have been the Chiefs, who they play next week. Cowboys play next week. Could have been any of them. They were going to win that game.
Right. Well, there's something to be said for the Murphy's Law effect on this, too. And sorry, guys, we didn't mean to get off the rails onto a straight-up football talk this early in the show. But, hey, it's part of what we do here.
We're thankful for football.
We are
Yes, we
thankful
are.
for football, sir. Yeah, I mean, listen, there are those games, and they just happen sometimes where everything that can go wrong for you as a squad is going to go wrong, and everything that can possibly go right for the opposition is going to go right for the opposition. And it just is that day, and it happens. And that's when you get these kinds of lopsided scores in the National Football League, because just like Rob said a second ago, there's really not a huge divide between the best team in the league and the 32nd team in the league. All right, talent for talent, they're all awesome. But yeah, it takes this kind of an event. So,
And I mean, it's a perfect example. Two plays really talk about what you just said. Against Denver, the Cowboys blocked a punt. Because of the way the ball bounced, Denver got to keep the ball. Against the Falcons, the Cowboys blocked a punt.
right.
Because of the way the ball bounced, the Cowboys got a touchdown. It is essentially the same exact play. The ball just went two different places. The same Cowboys player actually touched it, Nashawn Wright. He's a rookie cornerback for the Cowboys. He touched it in the Denver game, and it squirted out of his hands. In the Atlanta game, he landed on it in the end zone, and he made sure this time. And that is the two games in a nutshell. So, and that's luck. To be honest, that's all luck.
Right. Well, speaking of things that weren't lucky over the weekend, the win that my Florida State football Seminoles got over the freaking rival Miami Hurricanes. I'm not going to turn this into a soapbox, but guys, I'm just going to tell you right now, that was the most fun I've had watching a football game since 2013. Rob, I know you're not much of a college guy. Kevin, I know you are, but you're an SEC guy. My squad has been through so much. I mean, we're talking 3 coaches in 4 years. We are an unholy, unmitigated disaster down in Tallahassee. But it looks like we're finally starting to right the ship. And I didn't think I'd know if I'd be able to say this 5-6 weeks ago. But I think we got the right guy at the helm. I think once you give this staff some talent and some tools in the toolkit to work with, I think they can make some things happen. But for one night, and for one night only, we got to beat the Miami Hurricanes in Doak Campbell. It was electric, and man, it was a heck of a lot of fun. Afternoon, I should say. We don't get to play that game at night anymore because neither of us are really any good. But anytime you can stick one to your rival, particularly in that stunning a fashion, 4th and 14. Guy who's known for running around a lot and not so much for his arm absolutely throws a dime to put you on the one. It's beautiful, man. It really, really was a lot of fun. So been a good week to be a football fan in the Malone house, shall we say.
Speaking of rivals, your last game of the season, you guys got a great shot to beat Florida. Because, I mean, how many points did Samford hang on them?
I think it was 50, 52,
Oh my
something
God,
like
Florida
that.
is a
Yeah, so
train wreck.
Florida won. But when you let Samford, now not Stanford, there's no T in that.
Right.
Sanford
Sanford.
score 52, Lord have mercy.
Yeah, well, I mean, Florida State lost to Jacksonville State. I mean, we're not going to be able to live that down anytime soon. So
But Jacksonville State's better than Sanford. Come on.
I'm not up on my FCS teams, guy. I can't tell you who's good and who's not. You know, I mean, I'm sorry, I'm not that fluent. But but no, I mean, it definitely does look like Florida's cratering. They are definitely on quit watch down there in Gainesville. I don't know that this team is ready to play anymore for Dan Mullen. And I'm going to tell you something. And I mean this not as a rival. This is just as an observer of college football. That guy does not have the personality to be able to recruit on that alone. He can't walk into anybody's living room and sell them on his program. He has to have the cachet that is the University of Florida behind him to be able to make that sell. And if they're not winning football games, he's done dealing down there. They'll run him out of there. So those old Bull Gator boosters have way too much money. They're not going to stand for that crap. And if he craters and loses out the rest of this year and then loses at home to Florida State, yeah, that could well be the end of him. But, we'll see. We'll see. But speaking of, I'm sure we'll get back to football. I took a peek at the pod mail questions, and we do have football questions coming up later on in the show. Guys, we're right around the corner from Thanksgiving. And let's see, what are we at now? 10 minutes into the show, and I'm finally getting to our theme. Go me. How's that for a first chair? Nice job, Malone.
Well, you're hurting cats.
It's guys being dudes, okay?
It is guys being dudes. That's right. But it's we're right around the corner from Thanksgiving, guys. And whether it's as writers, whether it's as sports fans, whether it's just everyday guys with wives and families and significant others, girlfriends and whatnot, I believe I can speak for all of us when I say we all three have a lot to be thankful for. So, as has kind of become the tradition on this show, the episode before Thanksgiving is where we just kind of round robin talk about that stuff. No guests, no nothing. It's just free flowing, free forming, the stuff that we're grateful for looking back on 2021. So, Rob, I'll give you a lead on this. You're the professor, man. When you look back on the last year, what's been the coolest part of that for you?
Well, outside of my family, which is a really cool thing, of course, I'm going to say getting the opportunity from Chris Kennedy to do New Mythology Press. It's been a heck of an experience so far. I have lots still to learn, and I've made more than a few mistakes, but that's not uncommon for me. I'm a guy who makes a bunch of mistakes, and hopefully only makes them once, but I try to make them all. It seems like sometimes.
The great philosopher Billy Joel would say they're truly the only things you can call your own.
A lot of truth to that. So I think the biggest thing is the opportunity to try to do this job. I'm really proud of the people who've contributed. I'm really thankful for the authors who've given their trust to me producing their work in anthologies. And Kevin for one, and thankful for all the anthologies I got to be a part of. Again, Kevin gave me a chance to be in one of his, and so I'm thankful for all the opportunities I get from other writers. I have a really special one coming up in 22 that I'm just really excited about. That's the one that we talked about with Casey Azell when she was on. Mm-hmm. And so I have a lot to be thankful for, but none of all of that stuff that I just talked about being thankful for, none of it can exist without the people who are actually spending money on books that I'm involved in, books that my friends are involved in. Thank you to the readers who make it possible for me to do this job, and frankly I wouldn't be here talking to you tonight if it weren't for the opportunities that readers have given me. So while I'm thankful for all the business side of things that have business opportunities, I have to say that none of that happens if it's not for the readers.
Right. I do want to say, folks, and I know we hit on this a lot on this show, but it's really only because it is true. Man, if you're into fantasy, I don't know that there's a press out there right now that's hotter than New Mythology. I mean, you look at, Talons and Talismans 1 and 2 is out now. You've got The House Between Worlds from John Osborne, continuing the Milesian Accord series. I was just on Amazon earlier, and, that book's been out, 3 weeks now? 2 weeks, 3 weeks?
Talons Talisman 2's been out a week and a half.
Okay. Well, House Between Worlds from Osborne's already up to 30 reviews. It's a 4.7 out of 5.
He's a great writer.
Quality stuff coming out of New Mythology Press. So I know Kevin and I loved it. Me in particular, I'm a spaceships guy. I'm spaceships, I'm aliens, I'm Zoom, and occasional sports and music references. If you're into fantasy, man, New Mythology Press is a place that you want to be. So whether it's by following Rob on social media or jumping into the CKP Facebook groups, man, they have got the meat and taters for you, as we say down south in fantasy land. If that's your bag, if that's what you like to read, New Mythology is where it's at right now. And I highly encourage you to go check them out. Kevin, speaking of you, man, what's happening in your world these days? What are you grateful for when you kind of look back on the last 11 months of what's been happening?
Well, I'm just grateful for the readers myself, because the Salvage Universe and the books have just, it's really a snowball, and it's headed downhill pretty quick, and it's building. There's 17 books, 18 if you want to count my Orbital Defense Corps. And I talked to another writer, and she was up over 70,000 on her novel, and Nick's up over 60 on his. And so there's like 6 or 7 being written right now. So I'm really thankful that the readers have embraced that universe, and they want more.
Right.
So, I'm just really thankful for that. But I mean, obviously it's my family and, being able to be home. We joked about it last year. Last year was the first anniversary that I have ever been home, ever, because of the military and everything else involved. And I've been married since '98, so I'm just really thankful to be able to be home and be with the family. I work in my office and I write and spend a lot of hours doing it, but I'm home. So that's just really huge to me.
Yeah, and on that note about your lovely wife and better half, can I just tell you that my wife absolutely adores Stacy. Like, anytime we come to cons, one of Natalie's favorite people to catch up with is Stacy. There's a whole slew of folks, obviously, in the CKP stable that, we're all one big family now. We all look forward to catching up and grabbing drinks and, catching up over what's been going on over the last several months, and we all saw each other and all that. But Stacy in particular is a very special place in Natalie's heart. And I know she always enjoys catching up, talking cooking, talking family, and talking the author wife life with her. So I definitely feel you on that, man. I would say probably on a personal level, it's great to be home. And for folks who know me off of the mic and outside of writing, who just know me as Ian, my real name. That's a move I have wanted to make for a long time. I got parents who are getting older, and making that 10-hour drive to North Carolina, 11-hour drive to North Carolina from where they're at in Florida, it got harder every year. And I got nieces who, one of them just turned 13. I got another one who's rapidly approaching tween age, that I'm close with, and that I've missed being a part of their lives for the last 10 years. And, getting back to Florida has been something that personally I've wanted to do for a very long time. And whether it was for family stuff on my wife's side, which she really needed to be in North Carolina, or whether it was just, jobs and salaries and making the monetary end of it line up, it was just not something we were able to do for a very long time. And we've tried for a number of years to get back here. But that finally came to fruition this year. And we found out in late July, you're moving to Florida. And right at that same time, we found out high school starts August 10th for your kid. We had 2 weeks to pull the trigger. I mean, to book movers, to get out, to sell the house, to buy a house, to find a rental, which anybody who knows Bay County knows that's a challenge. They're still reeling from Hurricane Michael down here. I mean, housing is massive shortage. So nailing that down took nothing short of divine intervention, but we got it. And this Christmas, I'm in a brand new house down here in beautiful Panama City. I'm going to have family over. We're going to have the smoker fired off. We're going to have vittles all over the place, and just can't wait. So on a personal note, being home is something I'm really excited about. And then obviously on the professional end of things, I can't say enough great things about the readers. I mean, I put out 2 books this year with Chris Kennedy. We've got The Street Survivors, which came out in May, and then we've got 3 Steps to Oblivion that kind of closes off the Swamp Eagle Security arc, this particular chapter of that story anyway, and is starting to bring the Guild Wars to a head in the 4HU, and that drops next Friday, Black Friday. But, I mean, the support for those books has been awesome. I mean, Street Survivors was over 100 reviews faster than any book I've ever put out. I'm sure the fact that it has the name Kennedy on it doesn't hurt. It's a 4HU book. But that's still just wild to think about. And so, for everybody who read that book, who loved it, who talks to me on Facebook about how much they love the characters and love the world and love the city that we created in Jacksonville, and especially for those who took it the extra mile to leave a review on Amazon, love you guys, man. And I'm just beyond touched that you enjoy what I do, to such a degree that you go that far out of your way to support it, whether it's with your money, whether it's with your time, whether it's with your social media shares. I mean, it's why we do what we do. And I could not be more grateful for that. Rob, you sound like you got something to say, man.
No, not so much. I just listening to you going, yep, 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 that too, yep.
Yeah. I'll tell you something else I'm grateful for, man. I'm grateful for the 2 of you guys coming on board the Dudes in Hyperspace. I had a lot of fun on this show for almost 2 years with Dave and Scott, talking a lot of sports and a lot of popular geek culture and all of that. But getting a chance to kind of pivot and turn this into a little bit more of an author-driven show where we get to talk about our works and the things that we do in addition to some of those things has really been a lot of fun. It's been a neat platform for me to talk to readers and be able to kind of get my voice out there, let people get to know a different side of me. But all of that started when you guys really came on board and we kind of turned this into more of a book thing. So it's been a fun ride. We started this back in May, so that's about 7 months ago, 6-7 months ago, and it's been a heck of a lot of fun working with you guys, man.
Well, likewise. I mean, I really say it quite often to you, but now's the perfect time to say it so everybody hears it. Thanks for all the work that you've done. For what behind the scenes, for those who don't know, Ian does nearly all of the work to make this happen. He does the recording, he does the editing, so that when I screw up, which has happened not as much of late, but happened once or twice, thousands of times, when I have screwed up, he has made sure it hasn't shown up, and that you've gotten quality product when you hear it. He does all the work behind the scenes to make this happen. And this has been a fantastic opportunity for me. I've really enjoyed the chance. And so I'm also thankful for Ian and Kevin for letting me take part in this ride.
Yeah, man. Glad to have you. It's been fun.
Yeah,
Kevin?
I appreciate all the work you do for it because, listen, I'll be honest with all the listeners out there. I put my headset on and I talk into the microphone, and that's all I have to do on this show. And it's like, holy crap, this is great. Let me talk smack.
And as someone who knows sound editing and knows that world, you're very uniquely suited to know.
Yeah, I know what's involved. I spent enough time in studios in Nashville and other places, and I understand fully what's involved. But all I got to do is sit down and talking to them. This is great.
We appreciate the perspective, man. It's nice to have a fellow college football homer in here talking books with me, Yeah.
I did actually make a step in that direction.
Okay.
Part of the reason I hadn't talked college football as much is that I've been trying to avoid getting some sort of a channel, a streaming package like Fubo or something like that, because I just don't want to pay it. And I've tried, but I went ahead and went back to Fubo a week or two ago, and I'm just going to go ahead and do Fubo for football season. And I hate that we're still stuck with that model for now.
Yeah.
I would absolutely pay for a NFL Sunday ticket separately. I would pay for SEC network, Big Ten network. I would pay for these things separately. Because all I really want to watch is football.
Sure. Well, but, unfortunately, that's not coming anytime soon because ESPN, CBS, Fox, now Amazon are willing to pay these leagues and these conferences such a ginormous fortune for those rights fees. It's the Golden Goose, man. So you hate the model, but it is what it is. Television programmers now know nobody stays around on live TV anymore to watch commercials. That is done. But nobody wants to watch a sporting event on DVR. You don't want to watch what I watched last Saturday afternoon with Florida State versus Miami. Florida State, who won the game, by the way, in stunning fashion. It was beautiful. Nobody wants to watch that 4th down and 14 throw, that drive, the ending to that game. They don't want to see that on a DVR. Because if they care anything about the team whatsoever, they've already heard about it on Twitter or wherever it is on social media. They watch it live. And sports is really kind of the last bastion of live TV that advertisers will go pay for because they know nobody's clicking through this on the diver.
That's true.
No, it's always fun to me. You're absolutely right. It's always funny to me when I hear someone talk about, well, how can you like sports so much? And I'm like, well, the drama of it is something incredible.
Sure.
And then when I talk to a number of people, and every once in a while they'll be like, why do you watch sports? And then they'll go watch some reality TV show, which I've got nothing against reality TV show, because what is sports? Sports is
reality TV.
It's
the
absolutely
ultimate
reality TV. And it's the best reality TV, because there ain't no faking in the NFL.
Sure.
Like, if, we talked about the Falcons getting their heads handed to them by the Cowboys. There ain't no faking the frustration by the Bronco or by the Falcons that day. There ain't no faking the frustration that the Cowboys felt against the Broncos. There ain't no faking the emotions that you see when players win and when you see them lose.
Right.
That agony of defeat scene in the Wild World of Sports of the ski jumper crashing down the ski jump that we all grew up with.
Forever etched in our minds. I can
Yep.
see
Yeah.
that now. That
Yep.
dude
Yeah.
was spinning and come off that ring. Oh, my God.
Well, real sidebar real quick. Kevin Steverson, are you chewing your ice?
I am not. Not anymore. It's gone.
Okay. Don't chew your ice, sir. It tears the enamel off of your teeth. This public service announcement brought to you by my dental hygienist mother. Hi, Mom, if you're listening to this episode. Love you. See, I was listening.
Yeah, see, he only said that because she's going to get it on to him.
But no, I mean, listen, it comes back to this, all right? And for folks who listen to this show who aren't sports fan, you can relate to this. It's about community. All right, for me, that's always what sports has been about. Whether it was gathering around a tailgate in college for Florida State football, whether it was an old school Tallahassee people, I'm about to give you a world-class shout out here, gathering at AJ's Sports Bar on West Tennessee Street in 1998 to watch a WrestleMania pay-per-view on the big screen. So much fun, dude. Seriously. And I promise I won't turn this into a tangent, but I probably will anyway. Old school 1990s wrestling before there was big screen TVs at home that you could buy for $500. When you wanted the experience, you had to go to a sports bar. And piling up into a packed house with standing room only, people waiting at the door for you to leave, got to be there at 2 p.m. to get a table. Everybody wearing shirts, drinking beer, pumping their fist at the screen. If you smell. It was an awesome community to be a part of and to experience that with hundreds and hundreds of your closest friends. College football, the NFL, when we get together in tailgate, or when we get together in fantasy football leagues and razz on each other and pick players. I'm legally blind and I'm a NASCAR fan. I can't drive. But you know what? When I used to get together at parties with friends and everybody wearing their colors and flying their flags, you throw your $2 into a race pool and everybody eat food and turn it into a big event for the Daytona 500 or Talladega, whatever it was. It was fun to be a part of the party and the crowd and the community. And we do that all the time at cons. Whether you're a 4-HU fan, whether you're a Star Wars fan, whether you're a Marvel fan, whether whatever your fandom, clique is, wherever you like to be, that's why we get together, man, because we all like to hang out and share in these experiences together. And that is what sports is for me. It's why I love it. That's the end of my soapbox. I probably should have hit the on the stump thingy, but next time, I promise.
That was quite a soapbox, that's for sure.
Not to go
Am
off
I
on
wrong?
that not to go off on that tangent, but let me tell you something. Yes, wrestling is choreographed. Yes, they know who's going to win and who's going to lose. Those cats are athletes. 'Cause I don't
Sure.
care. Listen, when you jump off a top rope and you're 12 foot in the air and you flip and land on your back, you better be an athlete.
Those injuries are real, folks.
Yeah.
When they
You're
happen and you got some guy that's out for a year with a broke neck, they didn't fake that. That happened.
No. I mean, the whole what happens is choreographed to the end, but you got to be an athlete to do that. I mean, come on.
Yep. It sure was fun to watch back in the day, man. I've really tried to get into it. Quick show plug. Raj Giri from WrestlingInc.com was actually a guest on this show in our first year. Had a lot of great stuff to say. We interviewed him right before the launch of All Elite Wrestling. Nice. So that was a fun conversation for fans who are wrestling nuts. Go back and check that out. And then also our interview with John Hartness, author of the Quincy Harker series. He's a big wrestling fan, so a lot of wrestling talk in that. I've really tried to get back into it, but I don't know, man. Today's wrestling product just doesn't grab me. If I flip over there and I see good old 60-year-old Sting come out, and I'll see what he's got to say because he's still awesome. But I don't know, man. It doesn't have the pop for me that it used to.
Well, it
So I
doesn't.
want to just
it doesn't
point
start
something
like it used
out.
to.
Go ahead,
point
Rob.
something out. You just said, they're athletes. They absolutely are. And anybody who wants to say they aren't, that it's just entertainment, I would point to somebody like Gregory Hines or a ballet dancer or any dancer for that matter. Tell me those people aren't athletes.
Sure.
Yes, it's choreographed.
Oh, absolutely.
Yes,
Oh,
it's pure entertainment. But those people are world-class athletes too.
Yep.
It's just a different thing.
Yep.
Yeah, Gregory Hines could get up on his toe. I mean, just that cat dance. He could dance. So
I got visions of Napoleon Dynamite flying through my head right now. By the way,
listen, but the problem with wrestling for me, is it doesn't start like it used to.
Right.
You know what I'm talking about?
Sorry, guys. I got to get another cough drop because I'm freaking dying of a fall cold here, but please continue.
Listen, it used to start for the thousands in attendance and the millions around the world. You ready?
There it is.
And it was like, yes.
Wait, I never really. So that's a new entrance to me because I really haven't been. I got tons of respect for wrestling, but it never was my thing. The wrestling I kind of find interesting is the Olympic stuff.
Right, sure. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that.
But the intro matters so much.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, Hockey Night in Canada has an iconic start. And how many of it, I mean, one of my favorite pieces of music is the Monday Night Football theme. Especially when it led into, Howard Cosell and some of the old school announcers.
Sure.
That theme, that intro was brilliant. So, yeah, the intro matters. That's for sure.
Nice. Read, speaking of hockey and music, I just finished reading, I guess about a month or so ago, Dave Mustaine's autobiography. And I guess way back when in like 08, 07, 08, the NHL came to him and said, hey, we'd like you to pen some sort of an anthem that we can use for our upcoming season. And he wrote a song called Crush It or something like that. Anyway, Megadeth fans hated it. Like, they were like, it's not Megadeth, he's selling out. He was very clear in his book. He was just like, listen, I didn't write that song for Megadeth fans. I wrote that for hockey fans because I'm a diehard hockey fan. I was raised on the sport. I love everything about it. And when the NHL came to me and said, will you write us an arena foot stomping anthem? I said, hell yeah, because I'm a fan. And that's what I wrote that song for. So if you don't like it, then you don't have to like it. But don't blame that on Megadeth because it wasn't ever meant to be a Megadeth song.
Yeah, I actually really like it. Yeah, it's a little bit less intricate than some of its other stuff, but it's still a hammering song.
Sure. Anything from Dave Mustaine is going to be a hammering tune. Like him or not, that guy can rock. There's a reason why he is what he is.
Yeah, he's everything I've heard, he's a jerk, but he's a hell of a talented jerk.
He's a micromanager, that to be sure. I mean, Megadeth's lineup's been a revolving door of musicians its entire run. He's had, 18 players through there?
I don't know.
So,
pretty much all.
It's not uncommon in that genre. Ronnie James Dio was just a taskmaster.
Sure.
And it was all Ronnie James Dio. The money was all Ronnie James Dio. And the people in the band got paid a salary. They didn't get percentages of the ticket. They didn't get percentages of the show. They got, here's what you get paid for playing. You want to do it or not, there's 3 more that'll do it for you. And that was that. His band. So.
Yeah, another one that's a great one if you're into rock reads was Sammy Hagar's autobiography. I think it's called Red, My Uncensored Life in Rock. He talks a lot about, because he's such an entrepreneur, he really gets into a lot of the nuts and bolts of the music industry in addition to just his career. So if you're a goober like me and you like to read that kind of stuff, then he's great. He talks all about how the Cabo Wabo Cantina came to be down in San Lucas and how it was a money pit for about the first 5 years in existence, and then it took off when it meant to. It's cool. Very cool stuff. But
that cat has maintained his voice through the years. When you hear him now on a show, he sounds like he did before. He hasn't lost a step. And a lot of he's beyond 70. What is he, 71?
He's like 70. Yeah, he's got to tune it down. He ain't singing I Can't Drive 55 in whatever the key was in 1983. He ain't got that.
But he is not sounding like the typical 70-year-old trying to sing what he used to have.
He can still hang in there. Yeah, he can still hang in there. I just enjoy listening to the guy talk about the craft. He said this in his book. The greatest thing he ever did with his career was take the business out of the music business by investing in all the other things he's done along the way, whether it was in tequila, whether it was in mountain bikes and apparel, whether it was real estate. He's like, by venturing myself and leveraging myself into these other directions, now when I put out a record, it's because I wanted to put out that record. And if it sells and you guys buy the hell out of it, then that's great. And if it doesn't, you know what? I still enjoyed making that record. And for the 5 people that bought it or whatever that may be, they did too. And I can afford to do that, and that's been the greatest thing I ever did. But anyway, something else I'm grateful for: music. Seems like there's been a lot of good music coming out this last year. In the rock genre, I know we talked a lot about this with William Joseph Roberts. Greta Van Fleet to me is just a great newer rock band. When you just want good old school stripped down rock and roll. It's not hip hop rock. It's not corporate speed metal with a melody that you can play on the radio rock. It's not any of that. It's just straight up old school. Freaking throw them up in the air, rock and roll. Greta Van Fleet meets that bill for me in a way that really no band has in quite a long while, and so I've really, really welcomed that. On the country end of things, been nice to get some new stuff from authors that I feel really still, love the era of that genre that I love. There's lots of different strains of country music, and as a friend of mine says, there's a butt for every seat. But it seems like for people who are fans of kind of the outlaw era and then on up into the 90s era, there just hasn't been a lot. But it seems like there's been kind of a resurgence of that, whether it's new stuff from Alan Jackson and Travis Tritt. Stapleton's obviously got stuff. Eric Church has, I think, really sent a big shot across the bow with a lot of that sound. Then you get into the minutia with guys like Cody Jinks, to some degree Cody Johnson with more of a Texas George Strait old school rodeo sound. There's been more of that this year, and I've been really, really thankful for that, because as much as I enjoy the classics, it's nice to hear new stuff that you haven't heard over and over and over again. So, Kevin, you're a music guy. What's been happening this last year that has caught your attention that maybe you've been grateful for?
Well, the music is the genres are changing. The genres are blending. I was involved a lot with the country rap and the southern rock mix, and that's just blending, and it changes. You get some people who complain that's not the old country. Oh my God, that's not the old country, right? And then you ask him, when's the last time you bought a CD or record or even downloaded music? Well, I don't. I have my collection. Great. Because you have your collection and you're not spending a dime in country music, the only way for them to make money in country music is sell to the kids. Yep. And the kids want rap and the kids want rock in their music. So quit complaining there, buddy, because you ain't spending a dime on it.
Yep.
And they just look at you with their mouth open, because guess what? Yeah, your collection of old George Strait and George Jones, cool, nothing wrong with that. But since you won't spend any money, they're not making music to suit you.
Right.
And they just look at you like, oh my God.
Well, it's out there, but I mean, listen, as people who started out as independent authors, or at least I did. Kevin has the luxury of being a trad pub guy from the start. For those of us who started out in indies, like, we know what it means to get out there and have to grind and get your own stuff out there. But it also means that you can write what you want, how you want, when you want. So there's always going to be artists out there who want to play the stuff that that you want. It just may not be mainstream. You got to go digging out and find it. And that's when things like Spotify and Apple Music are really a blast, because you can hit those rabbit holes and just go nuts finding those obscure artists that nobody's going to play. So to your point about the guy who's sitting in his basement jamming out to George Jones and Merle Haggard, both of whom I love, particularly Merle, get out there, man. Go find some stuff. It's out there. Just because it ain't being played on commercial radio don't mean people ain't making it. Go support it, because they need you as much as we do as writers.
Exactly.
And don't click through the Google ads on YouTube. Let them play.
Let them play. That's how they make their money. But what I've been doing recently, and just yesterday, there's a band, and I've been following them for years. They're called the Floating Men. They were based out of Nashville, but it was more rock. And their first album came out in '92, Tall Shadows, and I got it. In 1992, they were ahead of their time, so the radio stations wouldn't play them. The problem was they were also ahead of social media, so it's not like they could build that following there. And so if you don't know about them, you just don't know, and you never will. But there's a band called the Floating Men, and you really should give them a listen, because
The Floating Men.
The Floating Men. Their lead singer, Jeff Holmes, and his lyrics have been studied in college for some of these college courses in music. That's how good the guy writes. But they were ahead of their time, so the radio wouldn't play them, and they were too soon for social media. So what are you going to do?
Right. Rob, how about you, man? Anything struck your fancy this last year or so on the music front?
Well, I wouldn't necessarily say that there's anything new that jumped out at me, honestly. But some of the old bands, some of my old traditionals have put out stuff that I really like. Iron Maiden had a new album out, Senjutsu. It's not quite Book of Souls, which Book of Souls is the one previously before that, and I actually think Book of Souls may very well be Iron Maiden's best album, top to bottom. But I'm a big fan of bands who've gotten through all of the rock and roll crap, all of the tendencies in the business and all that, and gotten to a point where they've lived, which obviously, you know, you look at Jimi Hendrix and people like that, that's a thing, right? Their skill has improved along the way. They've never stopped working at the craft. You look at Steve Harris and all the people in Iron Maiden, they are good musicians who keep getting better. Rush was much the same way. Good musicians who kept getting better. And then at the end, they don't have the same energy that they had when they were kids, but they have this vast amount of experience and skill that they can bring to it and turn out stuff that is simply majestic.
Right.
And Book of Souls was like that for me. Senjutsu is not quite that on that level, but there are several songs on Senjutsu that are some of the best songs that are I'm willing to put in the discussion with some of the best songs Iron Maiden's ever done. And believe me, I've been an Iron Maiden fan since, I don't know, 80 Mumble, right? And loved Rime of the Ancient Mariner and, you know, all the stuff off of, you know, Power Slave and Peace of Mind and all of those things. Bruce Dickinson is one of my most admired people ever. Dude's an amazing guy. The stuff that they're putting out now is just, it's not what it was in 1982 or 83. It is something better. A band that sort of amplifies that also is Sabaton. Sabaton keeps putting out amazing stuff. For those who don't know Sabaton, they are military history themed heavy metal band out of Sweden, and they are really good musicians. Again, gotten good at the craft, kept working at it, bring a lot of history to it. And
check out a band called Volbeat.
I know them.
You know them? Okay, good stuff. Sad Man's
Good
Tongue,
stuff.
great song. Very good song.
Good stuff. So I would say that one of the things that we have, you know, I actually touched on this last time, and we skipped over it. But we have sort of the best possible time ever with music. And I say that not because we're necessarily getting the best music of all time being made as we sit here today. It may be. It may be that the best song that you will ever listen to comes out tomorrow. But the truth is that we live in the best possible time for music. And that will be truer tomorrow and truer yet the day after tomorrow. Because what we live in now is a world where every bit of music just about that has ever been created, admittedly there's stuff prior to 1900 that this isn't true, but the vast majority of music that's ever been created, we can listen to at a moment's notice.
Sure. Yep. And much like as the publishing industry goes, if somebody wants to make a record and take it to market and get it out to the masses, they can do that. Now, it's up to them to market it and find a way to connect with an audience, but getting it there, they can publish out to Spotify, to Amazon, to Pandora, just like anybody else can. And people like me who like to click on people who listen to this artist also like this artist. Go check that out. Links, get to go find them.
Well, and I'm even talking about something a little bit different. It is, and I can't remember who posted this, but I saw this on Twitter. So a guy pointed out that his children were always going to know music from the 60s, for example. Music that their grandparents listened to because it was still around. The recording of it all has meant that we still get to hear all of it. And this is a really odd thing that I think we take for granted. And I don't think we should take it for granted. I think it's an amazing thing that we can listen to You talked about Waylon Jennings and a bunch of the old school country, and it's still there. Whereas in previous centuries, prior to the 20th century, all of that would have been forgotten. It would have come out as something different by somebody else who adapted it. It's really a fascinating thing to think of how much the memory of music has changed simply because it's all been recorded.
Fair enough. Yeah, no, I mean, that's definitely the joy of streaming services, is if you want to go back and listen to old school 50s country, go back and do it. And you have entire albums and entire catalogs there that you can go back and check out. So truly everything that was old is new again in a lot of respects.
It's a weird philosophical thing. And okay, yeah, I'm the one guy who cares about that sort of thing, but...
There are a lot of people who like to get down into the weeds and find new stuff. I mean, I can go back and listen to old stuff from the Doobie Brothers that I've never listened to because it's all streamed now. And so it's not just, okay, well, I've got, a best of or a couple of CDs. I can go back now at a moment's notice and just be like, you know what, I just feel like listening to some Doobie Brothers, and I can click shuffle and I can listen to anything they've ever put out and hear songs that were recorded 40 years ago. I've never heard of them. I've never heard them before, but they're right there.
It's a fascinating thing.
It is. All right, fellas, we're ticking on the past the 40-minute mark here, which I think is pretty good. Suffice it to say, we're all very grateful for music. We're all grateful for readers. We're all grateful for sports and football, most definitely. But on top of all of that, because we are authors, we are very much grateful for our readers. And anyway, with that, I think it's time we should also be grateful for our presenting sponsor, which takes us down to halftime. Halftime is, of course, the segment where we show some love to our presenting sponsor. That would, of course, be Chris Kennedy Publishing. Doesn't matter what you're into, folks. If it's military, sci-fi, space opera, paranormal romance, urban fantasy, they got it all. Go to chriskennedypublishing.com. Check it out. Check out the authors. Check out the series. Get yourself some free books, man. Sign up for a mailing list. You'll be the first to know about all this stuff. And you get free reads, which is never a bad thing. So, all righty. Well, let's see. What do we got going on here for this week's new release? That would be In the Service of Luna. This is the fourth book in the Luna Free State series from Johnny Siers. Recently a guest on the CKP Confidential program over on CKP Patreon, so be sure to check that out. John was a really insightful guy. That's the first time I've had a chance to talk with him voice to voice, and super cool dude with some great stories to tell. And apparently the stories that he's telling in the Luna Free State series, really freaking good because they're selling like crazy. So go check it out. Rob, In the Service of Luna, that's the one we're talking about today. What's this book all about, man?
Well, on-the-job training can be hazardous to your health. Lorna Greenwood hopes the Lunar Free State's Fleet Academy will prepare her to follow her to grandmother's legendary footsteps. Her roommate, Nova Sakura, has already spent time in the LFS Marines and wants to move up to the officer ranks. First, though, they have to survive 4 years of training. Military service gets real for Lorna when the assault carrier Omaha Beach comes under fire during her first-year training cruise. Nova's first-year cruise aboard the light cruiser Hydra seems pretty routine, until she's called upon to take charge of a squad of Marines boarding a ship full of murderous pirates. Nothing prepares them for the challenges they face after graduation, when they're both assigned to the same ship and find themselves facing an alien enemy in a distant star system, in what could be the start of another interstellar war. Two young women put their lives on the line in the service of Luna, even if that means leaving family, friends, and their hearts behind.
Kevin, what are the people saying about this latest entry in the Lunar Free State series?
Well, G. Jacobs says 70 years after the founding of the Luna Free State, and they're still doing interesting things in interesting places. A brand new survey cruiser with the next generation of LFS sailors and Marines leaves Sol System to check out the neighborhood. Along the way, we get a lot of great character development and different points of view. I really enjoyed this one. Siers snuck in a few surprises along the way that made it even better. Now, Marcus says, another incredible addition to the Lunar Free State series. I can't recommend it enough. If you haven't read any of the LFS series, then I encourage you to get book one. Strap yourself in and prepare yourself for an amazing ride and an incredible story told by a fantastic author. Now, Ken says, In Service to Luna joins the third generation of the Greenwood clan supporting the Luna Free State. This book felt like a coming of age in the military novel similar to Sharp's Rifles or Horatio Hornblower in Space. Definitely a must-read for LFS fans.
Very nice. In pre-release news this week, and these are, of course, books that are out and available to readers, but only through the CKP website. So go to chriskennedypublishing.com and you can buy this one. This week's pre-release is Insertion by Chris Kennedy. This is the latest novella in the Murphy's Lawless series from Charles Gannon over in the Kane Reardon universe. So for folks, that's actually been a huge one lately. So for folks who want to check that out before it goes live to the rest of the world on Amazon, you can find that this week at chriskennedypublishing.com. Again, that is Insertion from Chris Kennedy. For those like myself who enjoy the audio variety for their reads, we've got new stuff from David Halquist. This would be Warrior Integration, and that is book one of his Singularity War series. That one came out earlier, I believe it was this year, to a lot of big fanfare, and they are finally getting that out in audio, so be sure to go check that out. In other news, we've got a new series getting ready to start from, let me make sure I get this guy's name right, Mike Jack Stonebos. Dude, if I butchered your name, please don't come hurt me, but I believe that's it. Mike Jack Stonebos. Name of the book is The Signal of Space. Mike is one of CKP's newer authors, and apparently this book is really good. Some of the stuff that I'm hearing from editing is that it's got some fantastic stuff up on it. So for those who want to check that out, go to chriskennedypublishing.com, grab one of the contact forms, and send them an email. They'll get you signed up to become a launch team reader, and that means you get to read the book long before anybody else, which is never a bad way to go. So, all right, well, thanks for that, fellas. That is going to actually take us down to the listeners and their questions for us. So let's get into some pod mail.
You've got mail.
Okay, first question comes to us from, hang on, let me get my pod mail notes. That would be Mark. Now that the World Series is behind us and with winter meetings on the horizon, it's time for us as baseball fans to turn our attention to free agency. Kevin, what's the word on Freeman? Is he going to stay Atlanta, or will he move on to greener pastures with lots of dollar signs? Chop on, and thanks for taking my pod mail. What's going to happen with Freddie Freeman, Kev?
Well, Freddie Freeman wants to stay a Brave. I mean, he's the face of the franchise. There was Chipper Jones, there's Freddie Freeman, and he wants to be there. Okay, he wants to be there. He wants to stay there. He's made no bones about it. The team wants him. They've made no bones about it. Okay. But where the conundrum is he can't hook up the Braves and make sure they have plenty of good players by giving them a really great deal. And they can't lowball him either, because what that does is it really messes over other true free agents across the league who are trying to do something with their own teams. Freddie can't just take a lowball signing with the Braves and then that sets the standard across the league, because that's not right. And he knows it. The team knows it. Right now, I think they're negotiating that 6th year. They want to give him 5. He wants 6. But I think he's going to stay a Brave, and it's going to happen because they both want it and the fans want it.
All right. Rob, have you got any other free agents or kind of off-season storylines in MLB that you're keeping an eye on this off-season?
Well, I think the big one to me is, where are all the shortstops going to land? Carlos Correa, Corey Seager, and on down the line. What's going to happen with all of them? I think that's the most fun discussion. All of them are going to get huge salaries reflecting the market as it bears today. Freddie Freeman is just one example, and I do think that while the 6 year is a thing, and I don't blame the Braves for wanting to protect themselves on the 6th year, truth is the market now for top-end free agents is looking for length. Looking for length of contract as much as anything, because that's where players are getting their long-term success, long-term assurances that they'll have money for the future. And it sounds odd to us because we're talking big-time dollars, and it seems like, well, how can't they live on X number of dollars and so on and so forth? It's not as easy as all that, and there's not a one of us that doesn't think, well, it would sure be nice to get $4 million or $10 million. It'd sure be nicer to get $30 million. And again, Kevin made a great point there. The truth is these players aren't negotiating in a vacuum, much as players might want to stay with a team or something. Team-friendly deals are difficult because what those tend to do is benefit the billionaire owners against the millionaire players. And none of us are really going to have too much problem with either of those not having money, of course, because, it's not like I know much about being a millionaire. The truth is, though, that they are looking at the people around them, their coworkers, who are saying, be careful, man, because you're messing with all of our livelihoods, too.
Right. Well, with all due deference to you gentlemen, if Warner Brothers or whomever came to me and said, Ian, we're kind of in a debate with ourselves as to whether or not to pay Stephen King $10 million for the rights to his new book or $3 million for Mako, what do you think? I would happily take $3 million for the Mako series and screw Stephen King. That's kind of my thought on that. But that's just one jaded author.
But
I can do a lot with $3 million after Uncle Sam takes half of it. Bastard.
You and I would absolutely do that. But our market's different. Our market's different. Also, you said it yourself, sports is in part about the camaraderie and the being together. And that's true even at the major league level. The truth is most players really care about their teammates.
Sure. Sure.
They just can't not. And
sure.
So all of these things that we're saying, while it may not be relevant in some instances, and certainly if you had a chance to throw us to the curb for $3 million and you didn't, I'd be like, you're crazy, throw us to the curb.
Sure.
Right.
Well,
but the realistic example would be you negotiating for $3 million. It's about to happen. You're probably going to sign within the week, and two other yahoos take $100,000 for theirs, so they come back to you and say, "We'll give you $200,000."
Yeah, I got you. Listen, at the end, I will admit to being something of that jaded fan who's really tired of listening to millionaires bitch about not being bigger millionaires and billionaires and da-da-da-da-da-da. I don't care. I would be happy living in a world where I just don't hear about their salaries. I don't begrudge those guys at all for making what they make. Because, and Kevin and I were talking about this off mic, for every million that you make, there's somebody else making $1 billion off of what you are doing on the field. So if I was in their position, I'd want to cut of that money too. So I don't begrudge them for wanting to get what the market will bear. Let's be honest. I have no problem with that whatsoever. I just don't want to hear about it. I'd be perfectly fine knowing that Freddie Freeman is about to sign a 6-year deal with the Braves, and I don't need to know the dollars and cents behind that. I get that to some degree that's relevant information in a league like the NFL where there's a salary cap. And so, if a team is paying quarterback X, however many tens of millions of dollars per year they're going to pay him, well, that means you have less money to spend in that pool on other positions of need. Okay, I mean, I guess I could talk about that. But one of the things I love about NASCAR is I know that Kevin Harvick is a millionaire for driving the 4 car. All right, I know he's making a ton more money than some of his peers. I don't ever hear about it. I just know that he's signed through 2023, and I want to know whether or not he's going to retire after that. But I don't know his salary, and I'm good with that. And I'm good knowing he's a millionaire. But I don't ever have to hear him bitch about what he's making and what he's not. And I think a lot of fans would be perfectly happy to just not know. We don't begrudge athletes what they make. We're just sick of hearing about it. And we're sick of hearing from the guy who's bitching that this guy is making 55 and I need to make 57 so I can be, king turd on the crap heap, That's it.
Well,
Ignorance is bliss.
I'm fine with that. I absolutely am. Since we don't live in that world, one of the things that irritates the heck out of me is the idea that athletes aren't worth X amount of dollars. And the question isn't whether athletes are, it's what the market will bear. And part of the reason why this bothers me is you never hear this about actors. Tom Cruise or Alec Baldwin, how many millions of dollars did he make for shooting a dude?
Yeah.
Tragic as that is, he still made millions of dollars, and we just don't know about it because they don't talk about it. And your point about, boy, how much better would it be if we didn't know, absolutely true.
Yep.
That there are some historical reasons that we don't have time to get into, and obviously I can talk too much about just about any subject.
That's why you're a great podcaster, sir. I've been on shows with people who had nothing to say. What'd you think about that? It's good. Would you care to expound? It's real good. Next question comes to us from Scott. Let's see here from Scott. Where's Scott's question? Okay, Scott. With Thanksgiving upon us and in light of your recent food episode with Maya Cleave, that got me to thinking. Maya Cleave. I think I have to drink now. That got me to
drinking.
That got me to thinking. Cornbread dressing or stuffing? Which is the superior Turkey Day dish? I'm a cornbread stuffing guy all the way. All the way, son. I'm country as cornbread with that. I want the cornbread stuffing piled high. Mom, I'm home for Thanksgiving this year. Thanksgiving weekend, anyway. I'm going to be here for it. Rob, how about you, man? Cornbread stuffing or more of a traditional style dressing guy, are you?
I'm neither. I don't particularly care for any of that. What I want is quite simple. Give me mashed potatoes that I've made from scratch with the skins on, with pepper and garlic. Don't whip them into oblivion. Let them have lumps. Let them be taters. And pour in cream, butter, pepper, garlic, and that's what I want. If I'm going to have a side dish, and who doesn't want a side dish, that's the one I want.
You put chives in your taters?
Sometimes.
I do too.
Not again.
Yeah, I love some onions, man. Some chives or green onions.
Hold up. We are not fixing to skip over the fact that he doesn't like cornbread dressing.
Man, I was going
Coming to you next week. Come to you next week, the podcast with 2 members.
do I need to queue up the is Kevin Steverson getting ready to take off with another epic rant?
You know what everybody likes what they like. It's okay. Just like everybody can be wrong.
I was waiting for that.
No, you know what, the mashed potatoes do sound like I need to try those. So maybe next year for Factory Con or something, that'd be great.
Well, you didn't answer the question: cornbread stuffing or dressing.
Cornbread in this house, it's cornbread stuff, and they make it. They make
boy.
2 big old pans of cornbread, and they make both kinds of dressing. They make one with powdered and onions. They make one with onions in it, in case you don't mind it squeaking on your teeth. But you know what I mean.
I do
Well,
indeed know what you mean.
So here's the thing, Kevin. Making cornbread dressing takes away from the pure awesomeness that is cornbread.
Oh, well, listen, there's always some left over, and we have that too.
Yeah, man, that's for New Year's. Cornbread with black-eyed peas, man.
Well, we do our Thanksgiving the Saturday before Thanksgiving, so that's happening in a few days, okay? There will be over 50 people at my sister-in-law's house, and there will be turkey and Boston butt and ham and hen and deer and venison. And, I mean, it's just going to be incredible.
Oh, got my deep freezer today. Yep, venison coming to the Malone house. Yep. Good to go.
Shot one for you?
Good to go. I got buddies working on it. Yeah, I put out the red alert as soon as I got back to Florida to all my friends that bring me your doe tags. I don't need horns. I want meat.
All you got to do is make a phone call to the local processor and ask him, did somebody not pick up their deer?
Yeah.
He's going to tell you, yes, come get some meat. He's got 40, 50 pounds of it. Whether they picked him up or not, because he skinned it off the top, it doesn't matter. All you got to do is call one. There'll be deer meat.
All right, fair enough. All right, next question comes to us from Rachel. The holiday season is all about tidings and good cheer in my book, and frankly, that's antithetical these days to what's happening on social media. Who are some people to follow, authors or otherwise, that can bring some fresh smiles for me this holiday season? Rob, who are some folks that you follow, be it on Facebook, Twitter, or where have you, that are a fun follow, that are positive, uplifting, or just frankly a good follow?
Well, first I gotta throw a shout out to Rachel for antithetical. Way to go!
Word of the day. Antithetical.
Nice word of the, yeah, totally. One of my favorites these days that I've been watching on Twitter is the 5-year-old DM. I believe it's Red Worm, WYRM on Twitter, and basically it's a guy who's big into playing D&D and other tabletop role-playing games. And he got his kid involved in playing D&D at a real early age, and his kid's running scenarios, and the kid's just hilarious. He gets to the heart of what role-playing games ought to be. So often that we forget about it. So there's all these sayings that this guy will put out about the kid, all the things that he said, things like every monster would be better if it's a pirate. every pirate monster is better if they're an undead pirate monster. He's like, I love playing. I love being the DM because I get to tell the players what to do, and then in parentheses, he's DMing for his parents. How awesome is that? He's getting to tell his parents what to do. Seriously, he's a hilarious follow on Twitter. Another Twitter guy I really like, and this is one for Kevin that he should be following. A guy named Patrick Walker. It's Patrick without a C. In fact, his handle is often no C. He's actually a reporter for the Cowboys, but he's a big-time fan of both the Braves and the Bulldogs, and so he's been going as wild as Kevin is over those two teams of late. And with the Cowboys doing well, he's, can I get the trifecta, man? I'll do the trifecta because those are his three teams. So Patrick No C Walker, really smart dude. Good quality stuff talking about the Cowboys, but also a fun guy to talk about when it comes to sports. And speaking of another sports dude, because a lot of my Twitter is sports.
Yeah, same here.
A guy named Cameron Magruder, who is this dude who's making himself a career by doing over-the-top reaction videos of himself as if he, as a fan of and it is schlocky, silly, and fun. He's totally laughing at himself.
There's a few versions of that guy out there on Facebook or on Twitter, but especially that's wild on TikTok apparently.
He's one of the OGs of that. I think he's actually made quite like he's getting a career in sports journalism in part because of all of that.
All right.
So,
cool.
Well, it sounds like I need to watch. I need to check out this Patrick guy because 2 out of 3 ain't bad.
I thought you might be interested in that.
Kev, who you following these days? It's fun, man. It's positive, bringing the good vibes.
Well, listen, it's over on TikTok. Okay, yes, it's TikTok, but it's called Moon Tell That, and his wife is from Thailand, maybe Cambodia, and so her English it's not perfect. But he's forever playing practical jokes on her. She's playing on him. Her father lives with them, and this guy doesn't speak any English, and it's just hilarious. It's slapstick comedy. It's just funny, and sometimes you just need that. So I like that. I'm not a Gator fan, never have been, never will be, but I'm a Tim Tebow fan.
Sure.
So I try to keep up with him on his social media because that's just a good guy.
Yeah,
his
his Night to Shine stuff for kids with special needs. Basically, he goes to different towns and works with corporate partners to put on a prom event for kids with special needs, where they all show up in tuxes and gowns and have the whole prom night experience in a setting that's completely tailored to their needs. That's cool stuff, man.
Yeah,
guys still can't throw a football though. Just saying.
No, but he can jump up and throw it over everybody's head, and the wobbly duck lands in somebody's arms and they score. So
yeah, well, that worked in college. So.
Well, it worked. It worked for a while there in Denver.
Well, it worked for a year in Denver. He got that off one time in the playoffs, and they were like, "Oh, that's what we're doing here. Roll out on us again, big boy. We'll give you a freaking broken rib." That was that.
So.
No, I like Tebow for that. Guys that I follow as far as uplifting stuff. There's a guy who races in the IndyCar series who drove an F1 for a number of years named Romain Grosjean. He's a French guy, in case you didn't pick up by the name. For fans of the show Drive to Survive, which whether you're a race fan or not, I highly, highly recommend on Netflix. Riveting show about Formula One racing. When you get into season 3, I believe it is, there's an episode called Man on Fire. And the whole episode centers around a crash and the driver being trapped in a car that is a raging inferno for, I want to say it's well over 2 minutes. Like, this guy's done. They're writing his obit. And then somehow, miraculously, he climbs out of the car. It's some of the most incredible, this is not hyperbole, folks. It's some of the most stunning imagery you'll ever see. In sports or otherwise, it will freak you the F out how this guy got out of this car. Drive to Survive episode's called Man on Fire. If you don't watch the show, just go watch that episode and you'll know what I'm talking about.
So,
anyway.
Right along that line, I mean, sorry to derail just a.
Yeah.
Did you see the images of the semi on top of the car? Maybe California, but the semi has literally folded this car in half.
I have not seen that.
And you look at it and you go, there is no way the person in there survived.
Yep.
But apparently they had bruises and maybe some cuts, but almost nothing.
Well, this guy, I mean, he hits the wall at almost 200 miles an hour. All right, and this car just disintegrates. And again, I mean, the entire thing is on fire. Like, it's not like, hey, there's a fire erupting up under the the right wheel well. You need to get out of there. Car's on fire. We can get over here with some sprayers and hose it down. Like, the entire car erupts in an inferno. Craziest thing you'll ever see. Anyway, back to the question. Grosjean was the driver. And ever since then, he was unfortunately let go from his ride at Formula One. He was having a down year when that happened. So he was kind of on the way out anyway. But the whole world started following him after that event because it was nothing short of a divine miracle that he walked away from that crash alive. All right, the fact that his wife has a husband and his kids have a father today is sheer divine intervention. It's stupid. Go watch the wreck. You'll know what I'm talking about. But anyway, back to the question here. He's on Twitter. He has since come stateside and drives for Michael Andretti in the IndyCar series, which that's the series that drives the Indianapolis 500 every year. He is competitive. Everything that he posts on social media is positive and uplifting. This is a guy who is literally just happy to be alive. And he's soaking up every moment of every hour of every day that he is on this earth. And it bleeds through in everything that he posts on social media. I don't follow a whole lot of IndyCar drivers. I kind of got at IndyCar a number of years ago. I follow that guy. He is awesome, and his story is amazing. So I highly encourage you to go follow him. Corey LaJoie over the NASCAR series is another one that's a friend of the program, also a fun one to follow. Shout out to him. Him and his wife just announced they're having their second kid on social media, so kudos to them. And then in music land, Joe Bonamassa, blues guitarist, guy I like a lot, he handles his own Twitter account. It's him. It's not PRX tweeting on his behalf. He runs his own stuff, and so he interacts with fans and posts videos of himself in the studio practicing, and it's really, really cool stuff. So Joe Bonamassa, definitely check him out.
I wanted to touch on that real quick on the wreck. You're talking about just being happy to be alive.
Yeah.
A lot of people know I've had a lot of surgeries in the military, and the first time I got put out was because of a wreck. I want you to know, when I went to that junkyard to get stuff out of the car, I had a couple tapes and stuff. They were cassette tapes back then still. I asked about getting the stuff out of the car, and I described the car, and the guy was like, yeah, I know the one. Do you know who drove that? Did they live? Yeah. And that was me.
Well,
oh yeah.
On behalf of all of our listeners at the Dudes in Hyperspace podcast, we're ecstatic and over the moon that you got out of that car. Otherwise, you wouldn't be bringing us the fine content that you do every week on this show.
And it cut me out of that car. And I want you to know the jaws of life are very loud, but they will hold a rag over your face to keep pieces of metal from getting in your eyes.
That's kind of them.
Yeah, it was kind of cool.
All right. Let's see. Next question comes to us from Gary. Let's see here. Like a lot of folks around the country, the missus and I will not be traveling this Thanksgiving because we frankly can't afford the cost of travel. What are some recommendations you guys could pass along for books or things to watch to help us bide the time by the fire? Hey, man, at least you get to hang out by the fire. That's pretty sweet. And I feel you on traveling, man. I'm not looking forward to the gas bill that it's going to cost me to drive from Florida to North Carolina this weekend, but I digress. Stuff to watch, Drive to Survive. I just mentioned it on Netflix. Fantastic series. Highly recommend that. It's really riveting stuff, whether you're a race fan or not. Another one that I'm a big fan of over on Netflix is The Movies That Made Us is back with a brand new season. They did Back to the Future this year. They did Aliens this year. They did RoboCop this year. That's to go with Die Hard and a number of the other films that I was frankly raised on that they've done little mini docs on that. And again, that's on Netflix. So, the Movies That Made Us is great. Kevin, how about you, man? You got anything in terms of can be a movie, television series, or it can just be a book series that you want folks to read? Obviously, salvage title. But anything else?
Well, if money's an issue, just get you that Kindle Unlimited subscription, and you can read all these books for free. The writers do get paid for that. Even though you're reading for free, we get paid for that. So just go through the Kindle Unlimited, make sure you read every page. But listen, really, anything under CKP, and yes, that's our sponsor, but there is a double handful of series, and Chris just does not put out any series that's not good. You know what I mean? Because he reads these, he looks at them, he makes these decisions. So you could do any of those. The Fallen World, you can do Hitman, you can do Salvage, you can do the 4HU, some of the fantasies that are coming out. There's a good one getting ready to come out. So yeah, just take advantage of the KU and just read to your heart's content.
You mentioned Hit World. I'm waiting for that one to finally hit audio so I can get into some of that. That looks freaking awesome.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Rob, how about you, man? Anything you'd recommend for folks to check out over the holidays if they're staying in and not doing the travel thing?
Well, Kindle Unlimited is a great suggestion. I hate to toot our own horn on this. Some of it's obvious. Yeah, we're going to toot our own horn on this. But Kindle Unlimited is a good one for people wanting to save costs, like Kevin mentioned. We want you guys to read, to have access to stuff. So we like Kindle Unlimited because it gives... It's kind of the best balance of where we can get money for what we do, and you don't have to pay exorbitant amounts to Amazon, and it's a nice balance. And so we love finding those opportunities for you. But that's kind of cheesy, I think, for me to start talking about that sort of a thing in this context. So I'm going to start talking about some of the things I enjoy watching. My sweetie and I, we love to watch British TV. We love to watch the British murder mysteries. Midsummer. We love to watch Shakespeare and Hathaway. We have a great time watching... shoot, I'm blanking on the name. It's
Squirrels.
What?
Squirrels.
Is it Downton Abbey?
We have a bunch of fun watching those shows. And
Downton Abbey and all that.
Not so much Downton Abbey. It's the mysteries. Father Brown. That's a good one. There's something about the way that those are paced, and yes, they are slow compared to what American TV audiences want. They're not CSI, for example. They're not NCIS. But they're comfort food in a lot of ways, and I really enjoy them. And for Thanksgiving, where it's fun to kind of be with people and not necessarily stress about the rat race and kind of get away from the rat race, it's a nice thing to be able to do, to sit and watch something that is paced a little slower than maybe something that you're normally used to.
Comfort food in our house in terms of television programming is Chuck. Like, that was the show that if you want to get back to the early days of Natalie and Ian and dating, Chuck was the show. She would come over to my house on Fridays after she got off work and got the kid put to bed because he was a Micronian way back then. And I would have the new episode on the Diver, and we would dial up on that. Talk about just a heartwarming, fun, make you smile show. There's nothing heavy about that show whatsoever. But Zach Levi, what's his name, Adam Baldwin, Yvonne Strahovski, just a show that's made to make you smile. So if you need to talk about positive, just fun, happy stuff, check out Chuck, man. They got the whole series on Amazon Prime. So, all right, well, that's going to take us down to the wire, which means a little white flag.
White flag.
White flag is, of course, the segment where we talk about what's on our radar coming up here in the next couple of days and weeks. And that, in my case, actually, that is definitely going to be Thanksgiving. We're supposed to light out of here on Friday to leave Panama City and drive up to North Carolina to do Thanksgiving with my in-laws. That is going to depend in large part on my wife's health, because her cold that she has is 10 times worse than the sniffles that I'm battling right now. She feels like refried crap on a stick. But anyway, so we'll be getting on the road at some point to drive from Florida to North Carolina, whether it's Friday or Sunday. We'll have to wait and see, but that's the plan. Other stuff beyond that, looking forward to the end of college football season. Florida State, Florida announced that they're going to kick off at noon on the 27th, I believe it is. Be interesting to see what happens with that game. If everybody's healthy for Florida State and they're playing over their heads and Florida quits on Dan Mullen, that could be a fun day for Noles fans, and I certainly hope that it is. Other stuff beyond that, Yellowstone is rolling along in their new season, so that makes me happy. And I did get free Showtime with my new cable subscription that I got for my new house. So I have been watching the new Dexter, and it's okay. It's not bad. It's been good enough that I'll keep watching it, and we'll see what's going on there. Kevin, how about you, man? What's coming up for you in the next couple of weeks that you're looking forward to?
Well, like I said, I got with the in-laws this Saturday for the big Thanksgiving deal. My kids will come up and grandkids will be there, so it'll be a house full. So I'm looking forward to that. The other thing I'm looking forward to be honest with you, is the CKPI, the Chris Kennedy Publishing International. We're really kicking off. We're real close to announcing when the first book's going to be published in Germany in German, and it'll be back to back to back 3 books, and that's going to be the Salvage series, and then from there we're kicking off, and we're really going to roll out everything under CKP eventually.
Cool.
So that's happening, and then we've already discussed and come to terms with the next language we're going to do is going to be French. So it'll be German, then French, and so a lot of the CKP artists, once they get through with their contracts and stuff with Chris, is, they're truly going to be international authors because they'll have books in 4, 5, 6 languages here in the next few years.
Wee.
So, yep.
Wee. Rob, how about you, man? What you got coming up that you're looking forward to?
Well, on the CKP side, I'm pretty excited about the CKPI thing myself. It is kind of a neat deal, and we're looking forward to that. The big thing for me, now that we've gotten through Talons and Talismans, and I want to thank all the readers for that. Responses have been really good on that, and we appreciate it. Been a lot of fun doing that project. But the next project is, of course, The Eldritch Legacy, Kaiven the Unkillable by Todd Fahnestock, comes out on the 7th. So we are not too far away. I think that's 3 weeks from yesterday.
Nice.
Getting there. And so that's going to really explode. We're going to do a book a month in that series. It's going to be something pretty impressive. On the personal side, obviously the holiday, I look forward to getting to see my mom and stepdad on Thanksgiving. We're going to do a neat thing, not really on Thanksgiving Day. I always find doing stuff on holidays is always a bit nuts. We kind of prefer to offset by a day or two so that we can do the part of the holiday that's special, and that's being with family. And not stress about all the Hallmark add-on type stuff that they put in it. So we're going to meet for a neat dinner at a cool hotel in the middle of Kansas, old school place.
Cool.
And then on the sports side, oh my God, what? All right, listeners, you could send me money. I could take a ticket to the go watch the Cowboys play the Chiefs on Sunday. Not 30 miles from my house. It's going to be a hell of a game.
Nice.
Honestly, the Cowboys have 3 games in the next 12 days, starting Sunday. And they play the Chiefs, then they play the Raiders, then they play the Saints. It's a hell of a stretch. And if the Cowboys go 2-1 in that, there's a hell of a shot for that team to win the number 1 seed in the NFL or in the NFC, because after that they've got one tough game after that stretch, and that's the Cardinals. And that could be the game. That could be the game that determines the number 1 seed in the NFC. So there you go.
Awesome. Well, thanks as always, fellas. I guess I would be remiss if I didn't point out one more time that, I got a book coming out next Friday. 3 Steps to Oblivion, folks. It's my book that I co-wrote with Chris Kennedy. Kind of wraps up the Swamp Eagle security stuff and then throws you full bore into the final chapters of the Guild Wars there in the 4HU. Again, dropping on Black Friday, so we hope you like it. Thanks as always to our presenting sponsor, Chris Kennedy Publishing. Go check them out at chriskennedypublishing.com. Find yourself some new books to read over the holidays. If you're not traveling for Thanksgiving or Christmas, they certainly got stuff there to keep you busy. And on behalf of Kevin, on behalf of Rob, on behalf of the listeners, thank you guys. We're grateful for you. If you like this show, be sure you leave it 5 stars wherever you like to subscribe. It helps to boost us up through the rankings and help people find this little program that we call the Dudes in Hyperspace Podcast. So, on behalf of the other guys, happy Thanksgiving, you guys. Thanks for everything, and we'll talk to you soon. See ya.